Hello and welcome back to Gurukul Online Learning Network's Music Department's Sitar Lessons. This is Nishit Dey. On the last few episodes, we have talked about the history of the sitar. We've also talked about the seating position, and ultimately we've talked about how to tune the instrument. It's perfectly fine if you think you cannot do any of this right, because you are not supposed to get them right so fast. Any sitar player I know has taken very substantial amount of time to get these right, especially the seating position. Since everybody has a different body type, you really need to find out what way works for you, but it is also important that you try to mimic exactly the way I have showed it. And so that position, the ideal position that I talked about 2 classes ago, that could act as the drawing board for the back to the drawing board theory. So, you start from there, and as soon as you realize that you messed something up, you come back. That goes the same for the tuning. The tuning is a huge part of ear training, and I would suggest that you stay away from the digital tuner as much as you can, but if you are a complete beginner, then you are welcome to use a tuner. It does have its own problems, but eventually when you move to a tanpura, you will understand what exactly I am talking about. Till then, a tuner is fine. So, today we are going to learn how to make sound out of a sitar. That would have mostly concern your right hand, because the right hand is the voice of your sitar. So, it is going to decide exactly how your sitar sounds. The dynamics of it, however, is going to be controlled by the left hand. So, before I start on the how to make sound from the right hand, we are going to talk about the mizrab just a bit more. So, the mizrab is very important that you get a perfect mizrab for you. Now, the definition of perfect can vary, since everybody will have a different kind of finger, different length, different width, but the mizrab that I have here today, this I can call a perfect mizrab. Every sitar player has at least 10 to 20 different mizrabs in his or her inventory, but ends up using just 2 or 3. So, for me, my ideal position for the mizrab is the grip of the mizrab should be attached to the first joint of your finger from the nail. So, somewhere around here. So, what I do is my mizrab goes and sits right over there. After a few years, you are going to get like a permanent groove that is going to be made to fit the mizrab perfectly. Once that is done, I would suggest that you keep the mizrab in a position that it goes slightly towards the left. It cannot go towards the right. It is recommended that it does not stay in the middle either. It goes slightly towards the left, and here is why. It will act as a compensation, because when you do this, you place your hand forward, then you bring it here, and it has to compensate since the string goes at a 45-degree angle, which is why you need a slight left curve for the mizrab. So, with that out of the way, we have 2 different strokes for the right hand only. If you go from the bottom to the top, or from the bottom to upward, it is going to be called da, and if you do the opposite, which is from upward to the downward position, it is going to be called ra. So, you have da stroke and then you have ra stroke. And about the right hand positioning, as I mentioned, that you are going to the soft muscle over here that will go on top of the sitar body, and if I consider if I measure my hand from the elbow to the palm, I would suggest that around 50% of the of this arm of this hand is going to be on top of the sitar, and the rest 50% extension is going to be kind of hovering over the sitar towards outward. It is going to be outward. And lastly, as I also mentioned in the last video, that the thumb is going to rest on the end of the border design over here. Every sitar is supposed to have one. So, you place your hand over there, and the movement for the da and ra stroke is a combination of 2 movements. So, you do this, the wave movement, and this. So, it is a combination of both. Your right hand the fingers does not have to control the stroking all by itself, rather it is going to be a mix of both. So, kind of like this. So, this finger will not extend up all the way till here, eventually, and the right hand will not keep on doing just this because it's not going to create any sound. The perfect balance will also vary depending on person to person, and we will figure that out through the rest of the lessons. So, I always give this example of Bruce Lee, who one of his famous moves were the 1-inch punch. So, he measures his 1 inch like this, and then he steps back and punches with all his force from there. So, what we are going to do, we are going to firstly we are going to extend all the fingers like this, and maybe at first this movement is not going to be possible, but that will be the eventual goal. So, for the Da stroke, what we do, we kind of extend all our fingers, and then just like Bruce Lee, we have to hit like a sudden stroke with all your force. It doesn't have to be a beautiful sound, it just has to be a loud sound. So, here goes. Now the Ra strokes. And there goes the Ra strokes. So, also one thing that you need to keep in mind when you are playing an Imdad Khani Gharana sitar, it's very important that you also have the jor sound. So, you can have a perfectly clean sound like this, but to maintain that Imdad Khani aggression, you need around just a little bit of jor. So, if I divide it up into two parts, the impact should be 80%, it should be absorbed by the main string, and the rest 20 is going to go to the jor string. So, something like that. So, what we are going to do for the practice today is we are going to have 10 minutes to ourselves, and in that 10 to 15 minutes you are practicing seating, and before that you are also practicing tuning, and at the same time you are also practicing stroking. So, right hand, you from bottom to up, Da stroke. So, before you do the stroking, here is a checklist I am going to provide for you. First, you check if the sitar is, you are sitting in the perfect position, and how it's perfect, you get to decide that by always remembering that it has to remain at shoulder height, the sa fret, and on the right hand you place your soft muscle over here with a 50% extension. You place your thumb over here, and then you do the wave system. So, 4 Das from bottom to up, and then 4 Ras from up to top to bottom. So, you spend around 10 minutes of doing this, and make sure that you do not stop before that, even though it gets boring, because it will start to get interesting very soon, and you need to be prepared. The basics need to be really cleared out. So, Da and Ra in 4 Das, 4 Ras, and repeat for 10 minutes. So, that's all for today. On the next class, we are going to discuss on left hand actions. Till then, take care. See you again.